Okay, so today we keep our discussion on the minimum phase system. Minimum phase system. And for this topic, we'll also discuss the all-pass minimum phase decomposition. The all-pass minimum phase decomposition. Okay, so it turned out that to show you the important results today is that we'll talk about that any system, any causal and stable system, any causal and stable system, you have the system function, right? BD divided by AD. Okay, and you can always factorize BD divided by AD, factorize this system function into an all-pass system times a minimum phase system. It's always doable. So, and we will just show exactly why that's the case. It's very simple and also a useful concept. But let's and that's about it. Decomposition. It's always possible for any causal and stable system to be decomposed as a product of the all-pass times a minimum phase system. Okay, but today let's just kind of review where we are at last time. First, a definition. Let's say, what is the definition of a minimum phase system? A minimum phase system can be defined as follows. A causal, if we have a causal and stable system, with all zeros and poles placed inside the unit circle. Zeros and poles. Inside the unit circle. That's the point set. Okay, the set of all points with radius 1 inside the unit circle. Okay, inside the unit circle. That's my notation. So a causal and stable system with all its zeros and poles inside the unit circle is called a minimum phase system. It's called a minimum phase system. Simply a definition. Minimum phase system. And here, let's just again draw a picture. Either to show a circle somewhere, the unit circle, and if a system has all the zeros and poles inside the unit circle, not only the poles but also the zeros. Okay? If a system is like that, then this system is called a minimum phase system. And generally, its system function can be denoted as, we say, let's assume h of z, the system function, is denoted as a constant, some kind of a scaling factor times the product. Let's say this system has so many M or N, doesn't really matter. So many zeros, and each zero has a notation z0 sub I. Okay, so this, let's just use it as a notation. So that's on top, d of z, and let's assume that at the bottom we have a product from j from 1 to n, and we have so many poles, and the poles are going to be denoted as z, p, sub p standing for pole, and I, and j, I'm sorry, j, z inverse. So basically, this should say that this system it has n zeros and n poles, n0 and n poles, right? For example, n equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and n equals to 3. That's very just simple meaning. And there might be a scaling factor in front, okay? And each pole, each zero, we have a notation dp and d0, I equals to 1 to n, j equals to 1 to n. This is simply a notation, right? This is simply a notation. Okay, so here are a few properties. So last time I mentioned that with the example of the fax machine. Okay, the fax machine has to perform channel equalization. And the way it's done is that we first estimate the channel, the system function of the channel, and try to invert it. We try to construct the inverse filter. And if that's doable, so now we have a property. I say, the first nice property that is kind of nice. The property for a minimum phase system is that we can construct a causal and stable inverse. The system can be inverted in a causal and stable manner. Okay? So the first property, let me just write down. We can construct a causal and stable inverse. Causal and stable inverse. That is to say, the inverse. Okay, let me draw a circle here. And if, let's take a look, if this is HD, having 5 zeros like that and 3 poles like that, its inverse is very simple. Its inverse ought to have, wherever there is a pole in the system, we have a 0 in the inverse, and vice versa, right? So here we have, I'm trying to draw the corresponding inverse. The inverse system has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 poles, and in this example, we need 3 zeros, something like that. You know what I mean? Okay, so that would be a kind of a representation for showing the location of the zeros and poles for the inverse system. Very simple enough, right? So let's try to say that this stable inverse G of Z is simply defined as 1 over H of Z. Basically, we change AZ to BZ and change BZ to A of Z, right? Okay. So here, just to kind of to explicitly write down the notation, here we have A of Z on top, A of Z on top, and B of Z at the bottom. And this will define, will characterize a system that is exactly the inverse of H of Z. And also, of course, with 1 over C, because there is a constant. This scaling factor is also inverted. Any questions so far? And this inverse system is also causal and stable because why? Because all its poles are inside the unit circle. Okay? And just because of the very definition of a minimum phase system, all the zeros have to be inside the unit circle. Therefore, the inverse has all the poles inside the unit circle. It's very straightforward. And we say that then we realize that we can construct a causal and stable inverse by just changing the zeros to poles, changing the poles to zeros. That will give you the inverse system. Okay? The inverse system in the sense that it's called an inverse system because, as I said last time, if we send an impulse to the original system, it produces an impulse response. Okay? But if you just put in cascade, you just put G of Z to follow H of Z. If we just place an inverse system right here, what do we get? What do we get? The output is going to be the delta function. That's the meaning. Okay, I want you to take a look, ponder on it. Okay, think about this. what an inverse system actually means. You can use it. You can use it. If the original system, let's say this is a channel distortion, okay? If you get a delta impulse, it produces a kind of a response, which might be infinitely long. I mean, it could be IR, could be FIR. Okay? But if it so happens that the H of Z has all the zeros inside the unit circle, and the H of Z is also stable, then the inverse is also causal unstable. We can make a causal and stable inverse. And it works like this. It works like that. And for example, if H of Z is 1 minus, let's say, 0.95 Z inverse. Now this corresponds to a system, output y of n will be equal to x of n minus 0.95 times h of the previous sample. Okay? That's the relation between output and input. If we have this example, h of z. Okay? Is this system stable? It's an FIR, it's always stable. Okay? And how about stability? How about is it? Yeah, it's an FIR, it's always stable. Okay? And how about where's the zero? Okay, this system, because this is a first order polynomial, right? Where is the zero? The zero is located at 0.95, right? And which is inside the unit circle. So we know that by definition, this system is a minimum phase system. It is indeed a minimum phase system. And its inverse, G of Z, is going to be 1 divided by H of Z. Okay? And the impulse response, if we just continue, the impulse response, what is the impulse response? The impulse response, I hope is becoming straightforward to you. The impulse response is going to be 0.95 to the n power times the unit step function, right? Okay? So the inverse system here is actually an IIR system because it has a pole where the zero used to be, and the inverse system has a pole there. Okay? So this is to say that, right, this is to say, for example, I'm saying that if we deliver a unit impulse to the H of Z, the response is going to have two samples. One is plus 1, the other is minus 0.95. That's right here. But I'm suggesting to you that if we just put these two samples further and let it pass through G of Z, which is an IR system, the result really is it would get this delta function back. When you get the delta function back. And that could be counterintuitive, 有点违反直觉. That could be a bit counterintuitive, or maybe not. Okay, but it could be counterintuitive, 违反直觉, because we know that this is IIR, right? So in general, the response should last forever. But if this is exactly the inverse of H of Z, you see the impulse response of H of Z to G of Z, the result does not last forever. The result you have on the output side here, what we have is the delta function. We have the delta function back. Okay, so in this regard, we kind of sometimes this process is referred to as deconvolution. Deconvolution, because for the original signal, we are convolving the input with a impulse response, and if we put an inverse system, then this convolution is kind of undone. We undo the convolution. We get back the input. Okay, so sometimes this is referred to to as deconvolution, because what we're doing is essentially undoing the convolution. That's why it's also called deconvolution. Deconvolution, right? So so far we talked about the medium phase system. The medium phase system is a special kind of system which for which we can always deconvolve. We can always perform deconvolution, right? So that's kind of what in reality this is an example. Okay. Any questions? Any comment here? Anything that is unclear here? Is okay? Deconvolution. And sometimes this thing is also called referred to as, I'm just throwing some terminologies to you. Inverse filter. Okay, it's kind of good to know about these terminologies. Inverse filter. This is a filter. This is its inverse, so that we call this filter an inverse filter. Inverse filter. Okay, so medium phase system, that's first nice property. But however, not all systems are medium phase, right? Some systems have zeros outside the unit circle, and thus they are not medium phase. And as a result, you cannot construct the causal and stable inverse for those kind of systems. Whatever system that has any zero outside the unit circle, that kind of system, for those kind of systems, we cannot construct a stable inverse. Okay? So what should we do then? So is there any second best thing we can perform trying to kind of deconvolve, trying to perform deconvolution? So that leads us to the concept of, for those of you who understand, the second best thing we can do. The second best thing we can do is to perform, if you ever want to invert a system, but the system happens to not be a medium phase system, what should we do? What's the second best thing you can do? And my suggestion is to perform an all-pass medium phase decomposition first. Okay, so let's talk about all-pass medium phase decomposition. So the idea is very simple, okay? Any causal and stable system for any causal and stable system, we can always factorize the system function as a product of one thing times another thing. And the first thing will be a all-pass filter, the second thing will be a medium phase system. Okay? So what does that mean? Let me draw a picture. And this is in textbook 5.6.1. Okay, we are at 5.6.1. Let's say now we have a system that is not minimum phase. Okay, a system that is not minimum phase. And for example, it may have 3 poles somewhere and 2 zeros outside. And this system is not minimum phase. Okay. So for this kind of system, wherever we find a zero outside, let's try to, I'll just introduce you, let's try to find a virtual location. Let's say this is a virtual location. Let's identify a virtual location such that if this distance is r greater than 1, this virtual location, we're going to do something on the virtual location, but let me just, let's just first define the virtual location, which is marked by a square, okay? Let's say square is what I call a virtual location. And we're going to do something right there, okay? The virtual location, you might have guessed, the virtual location would be the same angle, okay? Just draw a straight line from the origin to the location of zero, outside 0. Draw a straight line, and then require the virtual location to be 1 over r from the origin. Okay, again, the relation R and versus 1 over R. 1 over R. And similarly for that other 0, okay? For every 0, draw a straight line to the origin and place a virtual location at distance 1 over R. Where in this case we have R greater than 1. R is greater than 1. Any questions so far? That's how we define virtual location. And I promise we'll do something for the virtual. So what do we do at the virtual locations? The answer is, for every virtual location, we are going to put exactly 1 0 on top of 1 pole. Okay? We're going to put 1 0 on top of the 1 pole. So again, so the system function has 2 zeros outside, and maybe we just leave the poles inside, leave these poles untouched. Okay, just keep it there, keep them there. And at the virtual location, we are going to place exactly 1 pole on top of 1 0. Okay? So they actually exactly cancel out. They cancel out. 1 pole on top of 1 0. Put both of them at the same location. Alright? So it's kind of stupid, right? Because you put 1 pole there and just immediately cancels them with a 0. But the next thing we do is pretty cool. Okay, so we are going to group these virtual pole together with the outside zeros. So they become kind of a group or a team, or they become friends. Okay, so put them together. And everything else belongs to the other team, the other component, other part. Okay, so can you gradually see what's going on? Okay, we're going to team up the virtual pole with the outside 0 and leave the virtual 0 with everything else. So we say that the system, the original system function, 2 outside zeros, 3 inside poles, is equal to a system which has additional poles and 0 at the virtual locations. And then we are going to assign the pole to pair with outside zeros and leave the virtual 0 and everything else together as the other part. Okay, and thus we finish the all-pass linear space decomposition. This is the idea of all-pass linear space decomposition. Okay, why is that the case? So I hope that you can see that here now after this assignment we have 2 pairs of poles and zeros. The virtual poles and the outside 0, virtual pole and the outside 0 at inverted locations. And the poles is happily inside, the 0 outside is fine. This is an all-pass system, right? This is already an all-pass system. So this is all-pass because we have assigned the virtual pole to team up with the outside zeros. And this is by definition already an all-pass. Because why? Because the location is R and 1 over R. Okay? And for everything else will be assigned to the second group of poles and zeros. So everything else includes the virtual zeros that will be created together with whatever that's originally there inside the unit circle. So here everything becomes inside the unit circle. And we're happy about that too. And so this second part is going to be a minimum phase system. And this first part is going to be an all-pass system. And we argue that the original system function can be written as a product of the system function of this all-pass system times the system function of this minimum phase system. Okay, I want to pause a bit. I want to let you ponder on the beauty this decomposition. It's very simple. You don't even need to make a mathematical, no. You don't even need to make a derivation. Okay? You don't even need to make a derivation. Key idea really is to pay attention to whenever we have outside zeros, construct a virtual location and put poles and zeros over there, and immediately assign the virtual poles to pair up with the outside zero, and leave everything else inside, which are inside unit circle for the second part. The first part is all path, second path unit space. Okay, so that's a very simple idea. Any questions so far? So kind of a notation. All right. So if this is our h of z, then we say h of z is equal to, let's repeat the notation, h all pass so z times h minimum phase of z. And it's always doable. This factorization is always doable for any causal stable system. Not necessarily minimum phase. Okay? For any causal and stable system, you can always perform this decomposition. Okay? And why did I say this is the second thing you can do? Because back in this scenario of trying to invert the system, trying to decompose the impulse response. Okay? If the impulse response cannot be inverted, decomposed, if the impulse response, if the system has any zero outside, we know that it's invert. We cannot construct a causal stable inverse. Okay, but what we can do instead is to try to, let's say if now we have x of n as the input and h of z being causal and stable but not necessarily minimum phase. Okay, but we know that at least we can always decompose h of z into the product of all paths times minimum phase. If this is always doable, then what we can do next is to design to invert the minimum phase part. Let's say now we can try to construct a stable and causal system that would invert the minimum phase part. Okay? And let's call this the result. Let's say this is x and y and n and what? X, Y, W. Okay? When we perform, let's say we perform discrete time Fourier transform, right? And we get to the frequency domain. So what will happen is that now the input spectrum big X, and the output right here, the spectrum Y, big Y, we know is HAP EJ omega times H of minimum phase EJ omega, the Z transform evaluated on the unit circle, times X. Right? So that's kind of the middle part. The output that we receive right here. Okay? So if we just following that, upon receiving the output here, if we just apply 1 over h mean right here, then what do we have here? The spectrum here, W, big W, is going to be, because this part is going to be inverted, right? This part is going to be inverted, so we know that at the very far right, the spectrum here is going to relate to the input as follows: HAT EJ omega times X Dj omega, we'll have this result. This is the result we have. The result we have. And it turns out that what's cool about this? The cool thing about this is that sometimes we call this process equalization. Equalization. This is called equalization. Because we make it equal. What do we make equal? Okay, equalize. To equalize is the verb, right? Equalization. What do we make equal? The thing that we have made equal are the magnitude spectrum of W and the magnitude spectrum of X. By applying this 1 over h mean, we equalize the magnitude spectrum of W to the magnitude spectrum of X. And this is simple enough because note that the magnitude spectrum is going to be the magnitude response of an all-pass system times the magnitude spectrum of the original input, right? And since this thing here is 1, so that's a fairly simple result. The output, we have reached the conclusion that by performing this, by applying this 1 over h mean filter, this inverse filter, then the second best thing we can do, this is the second best thing we can do. We can equalize the magnitude of output to the magnitude of input at every frequency. Okay, at every frequency. And why would that be a useful thing? Why would that be a useful thing? Thinking of like audio application. Okay, audio application. Let's say, what would be an example? Let's say x of n is some source of music, okay? Some source of music. You either purchase a CD, or you just listen to some kind of music online, okay? Let's say x, for example, if x is some kind of music, and h of z is either your headphone or your loudspeaker, which might have a distortion because the frequency response of your headphone or your speaker might not be entirely flat. Okay? Especially when you listen to music through a speaker, because even the path from this speaker to your ear, there is an impulse response, and that frequency response is not going to be flat. And further, in general, this response cannot be characterized as a monophase system. Okay? So here really, so let's say we are listening to music, or you are listening to me speaking through the loudspeaker. Okay? And so the response from the speaker to your ear is h of z. Okay? And it has a magnitude response, and it might have peaks and valleys in the magnitude response, right? So what's the second best we can do? At least we want to equalize the magnitude response. So let's say if somehow we can identify the transfer function from the speaker to your ear, you might be able to measure that, okay? If you're really serious about it, okay? Next time when you come into the classroom, play the delta function right here in the corner from your seat. You get the impulse response, okay? And then for that, you can propose how you can try to perform this equalization by inverting the minimum phase part. Even though the output will not be exactly equal to the original source signal, at least we make sure that the spectrum is, the magnitude spectrum of both of them become equal. So that's to say, your music, okay, your music at every frequency has the same loudness. And that's not too bad. That's not too bad, at least the loudness. The frequency response has been, allowed. You can equalize the frequency response, the magnitude response, for sure. The only difference is that now everything has a delay because we have an all-pass system. So different frequency will suffer from different, will experience different delay. But hopefully that will not be too much of a problem. So there's always a trade-off. You want to equalize the magnitude response. What you suffer might be the a group delay for certain frequencies. And it could be okay, it could also be bad. Because sometimes, in my experience, when we listen to percussion, listen to jazz music, percussion, we want every frequency to arrive at the same time. Okay, so for those kind of music, it might not be a nice, a perfect idea to perform equalization because the sound of the drum, or the sound of the snare drum, the sound of the percussion, percussion may experience dispersion. Like the percussion ought to be very concentrated in time, but after applying equalization, this concentration might be lost. Right? The shape in the time domain might change. That might not be a good thing. Okay, that's an exception. But overall, you can perform equalization so that the end result is that the magnitude response can be made equal to the magnitude response, magnitude spectrum of the input. And this is an application of why we want to decompose any system function into all path times interface. Okay, any comment here? Any comment here? Has anybody been using an equalizer? Yeah, okay, so some people know what I'm talking about. So this is kind of its underlying principle. Okay, so let me briefly touch upon a few additional properties for a minimum phase filter. Okay, so let's get back to the minimum phase system. Get back to the minimum phase system. I want to share with you three additional properties. And we probably won't be able to prove them, but let me just list them. Okay, we have a few additional properties. 5.6.3 additional properties. Additional properties for a minimum phase system. We have three properties. First, the minimum phase system. Have you ever wondered, okay, so far, a minimum phase system has all the zeros and poles inside the circle, right? But the question is, why is it called minimum phase? In what regard is phase minimum? Right? In what sense is the phase the smallest, the minimum? Why is this system, which has all the zeros and poles inside the unit circle, why are they called minimum phase systems? That's a totally valid question to ask. And then the answer is because it has a property of minimum group delay. And that means if we have some kind of a system, okay, if we have some kind of system which has the same magnitude response as that of a minimum phase system, okay, if we have this relation, we have this other system that has shared the same magnitude response to our minimum phase system, and both of them are causally stable, okay, then we have we must have, this system should be exactly, because the decomposition is unique, okay? This decomposition, as the way we construct it, is unique. So we say, we must have, when we decompose this other system, we have this relation, okay? And therefore, the angle, the phase response as the phase response as. And therefore, if we take the first derivative with respect to frequency. Since we know that then the group delay, okay, let me just use this method. The group delay of this other system, okay, I'm just writing very small. The group delay of this other system will be equal to the group delay of our minimum phase system plus the group delay of the all-pass system. Okay? I'm kind of rushing, but you get the idea. Next time, let's get back to this. Okay? So, briefly speaking, we have another system that shares the same minimum phase, same magnitude response with a minimum phase system. Then that other system can be decomposed. And we reach this conclusion that the group delay of that other system is equal to the group delay of the minimum phase system plus the group delay of the all-pass system. And we know that the group delay of all-pass system is always positive, right? So we have the conclusion, therefore, for this any such other system, the group delay at every frequency is going to be greater than or equal to the group delay of our minimum phase system. This is, in this sense, this is the reason why we call the system a minimum phase. Because for any other system that has the same magnitude response, we know that the minimum phase system has the shortest group delay at every frequency. Shortest group delay at every frequency, and that's why this system is referred to as the minimum phase system. So something in the phase is really the minimum among all other choices. Okay? We'll get back to this next time when we meet, and we have a few more properties to show. The second property is minimum energy gain, and third property is the uniqueness. Okay, then we talk about that next time we meet. Okay, so that's about it for this week, and thank you for coming, and have a nice weekend. Thank you.